Welcome in. Welcome into Real Deal Sports Talk with me, your host, KP. Appreciate you guys tuning in with me this Saturday morning, this first Saturday of lovely September, the loveliest month of the year, as it returns football to us. It returns the NFL regular season to us. It returns high school football to us. It returns the game of college football to us. And we have action all around. All around action. It's great. We got a lot to talk about. Last night, I went and I attended the Rocky Mountain Showdown last night, the CU-CSU game. Wasn't much of a game, to be honest with you. Neither team looked all that great. CU did put up 44 points on them, 31 points by halftime. They moved the ball with ease, but they didn't look all that impressive doing it. Colorado State really just looked that bad. Bobo has not done a good job, or whatever his name is up there with CSU, since he took over. It was kind of pitiful to watch. And hey, I'm not a big CU or CSU fan. I didn't really care who was going to win the game. I didn't have a vested interest in either side. I thought it was coming into the game, honestly, it was probably pretty evenly matched. I was looking at maybe a 26-21, something like that type of a game. Did not expect to see that. But, you know, it was fun to get out. Me and a buddy of mine, we went and checked out the game, ran into another guy that I used to play football with back in the day. He was working the game. It was just a good night. It was fun to see all the college kids acting rowdy and remembering what it was like back then. Thinking, you know, I went to northern Colorado, and at the time, you know, we were still a Division II school making the transition to Division I. And it's not a big program, but you got a little taste. We had Vincent Jackson up there playing receiver for us, doing big things, down there with Tampa Bay right now. 13 years in the league, I believe, already for Vincent. So it was a fun night. It was fun to go check out the little college game and see somebody get their little butt whooped. But, you know, there's a lot of college games going on today. We'll definitely talk about those here in a few minutes. We'll have Chris Rupert calling in from the dirtcannon.com, and we'll go over some of today's games. We'll go over the top 10 games, or games that have contained top 10 teams on Thursday and Friday night. And we'll even hit, I don't know if you guys, I woke up this morning to check the score and see what was going on in the game going on in Dublin between Georgia Tech and Boston College. It's come to a conclusion. We'll talk about that one here too. And you know, it'll be good to have Chris back on the show. It's going to be a good weekly edition as we talk about college football with him. Some breaking news. I'll have to see if this is true because I'm getting kind of conflicting reports as this comes in. There's talk that the Vikings and Philadelphia Eagles have potentially made an agreement to trade Sam Bradford to the Vikings for a 2017 first-round pick and a 2018 pick. It doesn't say what the 2018 pick is, but I'm also seeing reports that Philadelphia might not be interested. So we'll have to see how that breaks down today. Honestly, I had high hopes for Sam Bradford when he came into the league. When he came out of Oklahoma, the way he was chucking the ball around with his accuracy, I thought he was going to be a good NFL quarterback. Now, I didn't think he was going to be the best of all time. I figured he'd have some Pro Bowls and put up some numbers. And granted, he's been on bad teams and can't stay healthy, but now it just looks like he can't play anymore either. Decent year at best with Philly, right? Last year. Decent. And now he's going up to a Minnesota team. He should be familiar with the system. I mean, it is a similar system to what he's accustomed to playing at OU and Philly and St. Louis even. And they have pieces. They have a running game. They have a solid offensive line. Probably the best offensive line he's going to have played behind. And they're not going to ask him to do a lot at the beginning. Just don't lose the game and don't turn the ball over. We got Adrian Peterson. We got Asiata, or whatever their back. I can't pronounce his name, the backup. They got Treadwell. They got Diggs. They got Johnson. So they have pieces. They got Kyle Rudolph. They have that beast of a defense that I continue to tell you guys about. Bradford could be a good fit up there. That probably takes Sanchez completely out of the picture, and you probably will still see Sean Hill get some snaps early until Bradford is ready to go, or they feel he's ready to go. That'll be a nice 1-2 punch for him, honestly, with Bradford and Sean Hill in case something goes down. So Broncos fans, you're probably stuck with Sanchez on the roster unless they decide to cut him. Nobody's going to trade for him at this point. Their best option to dump him was Minnesota, and they went another route and found a guy who's a little bit better. So, hey. And, the Eagles made out great. A first-round pick for Sam Bradford and a second pick the following year. And we'll see what pick that ends up being. It's probably some kind of conditional pick based on playing time and performance or whatever. So, interesting breaking news this morning. So let's see how that develops throughout the day. Let's see if that really is true with these conflicting reports we're seeing. If so, good for the Vikings. They found themselves a bridge guy until they find out if their bridge guy in Bridgewater is going to be able to come back. Interesting. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I think the Sacramento Kings are trying to become Golden State's JV team. Or they're trying to build the bizarro Golden State. They had Steph Curry's brother, Seth, right? And now they're bringing in Klay Thompson's brother, Michael, for a workout. So, let's just put both of them on Sacramento. They can face their brother, 10, 17, whatever, how many times they play in the conference. And we'll be they can be the pretend version of Golden State. Right? What a dumb story. I don't know. It's just interesting that now they've had both of those guys in, I guess. Better story going down right now is Thomas Davis. I really like when athletes give back, so I'll rep that whenever I hear about it. Thomas Davis, Carolina Panthers linebacker, great linebacker, has donated to 650 kids all of the school supplies they will need for this year and backpacks. And this just follows in the line of what we've been seeing other athletes recently do, like LeBron James sending kids to college, Michael Jordan doing his stuff and donating money. And, you need to see more of that. And I hope this trend continues. I hope it's not a fad. I hope these guys start becoming, more socially conscious of what they're doing and the kind of money they're making, right? It's just good to see. It's good to see that they didn't forget who they are or where they're from, and that they're recognizing those same kids that need help are the ones that want to wear their jerseys and look up to them so much for playing a game. So, good to see. Kudos to you, Thomas Davis. Good move. Good looking out for the community down there. So, a lot of things going on in college football. It's opening weekend. A lot of big games. We got to it a little bit last week, kind of previewed it some. And we'll be talking about that here in a minute. Did you guys see this text Tony Romo sent Cliff Averill saying that he'll see y'all in the playoffs? That's some bravado from Tony Romo. That's him trying to keep his name in the media. Because if both of those teams... Seattle has a chance. I don't think they win their division this year. It's going to be a fun battle with Arizona. Seattle's definitely going to be passing it more, so I'm going to love to see how that goes for them this year and what Russell Wilson can do, being a little more in command of the offense and not just part of the offense. Arizona's going to be a tough out. Those are going to be two great games between the two of them. But Dallas, really, Romo? You think Prescott's going to hold it down and you're just going to come back in, sweep in, and ride off in the coattails? You're not Peyton Manning. He's not Brock Osweiler. This isn't last season. Your defense in Dallas has so many holes in it, it's unbelievable. So, no, you're not going to see them in the playoffs. If you even get to come back, you got to hope that your backup didn't take your job. So, no, you're not going to see them in the playoffs. It's just silly. I don't know why you would go and do something like that. Yes, he's the guy who hurt you on the play. He had no ill intention. And calling in right now, perfect timing, we got Chris Rupert. Hey, Chris, how you doing this morning?
Kyle, how are you?
Good. Happy you could call in. Glad you could be with us this morning. You ready to talk some college football?
Let's roll.
All right, so let's kick it off with the one Thursday night top 10 game, that Tennessee-Appalachian State game. Did you check that game out?
I did check out some of that game, and as I wrote about on the how to watch Thursday football guide, I kind of talked about some of that stuff that you might have noticed could have happened.
Right.
Actually did happen. Some things that I wanted to point out, like I did on that article, was that Tennessee, their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator were the same position at Michigan when Appalachian State went in there to beat them 10 years ago to the day. So when you look back at it and you think that Appalachian State's now played in two of the largest football stadium venues, and they beat Michigan, they should have beat Tennessee, and maybe you look at it to where the Mountaineers coach may have gotten a little scared there by not really calling a timeout there, but they outplayed Tennessee by far. By
far, definitely. When I tuned into the game in the second half, and Appalachian State was up, I think, 10-7, 10-3. And I said, okay, we got a little bit of a game here. Tennessee came back, tied it up, pushed it into overtime, and I just had this feeling that Appalachian State was going to have the edge. And then that miracle fumble. The miracle fumble that saves, it seems like once a season Tennessee has a game where they have some miracle play and they pull off a victory.
Yeah, the issue for Tennessee is a couple of things. I mean, one, we can't really take too much away from Tennessee with all the preseason hype and the SEC East champions that they want to crown, that the nation wants to crown them as already. That, slow starts, don't really mean anything. I mean, if we remember, Ohio State lost to Virginia Tech, won the national title. There's plenty of other examples, but on the other side, as Texas A&M has shown, that fast starts don't mean anything either.
Right.
But I think for Tennessee, their biggest issue was exposed against Appalachian State, who is a very good team. The issue is Josh Dobbs. He had problems throwing the deep ball or even intermediate routes.
Yep.
And as you saw in that game, he couldn't do that again. He couldn't do that on Thursday night either. And he had that one nice touchdown that was perfect, but anything medium or deep, he can't do.
They looked very limited, I would say. So, all right, let's move on to the Friday night top 10 game, the game we talked about last week, the Stanford-Kansas State game. That turned out to be a good game. Stanford did take it.
Like I wrote in that 2-week matchup.
Yep. Stanford took it 26-13, and it looks like, by all means, Christian McCaffrey's picking right up where he left off last year. What do you think of his performance?
Well, we talked about that it'd be difficult for McCaffrey to do anything new. And, of course, last year he had only one rushing touchdown of 30 yards or more, and last night he had two.
Right. So that was something new, right?
Yeah, that's new. That's new for him. So maybe he does want to improve and thinks he can do that better. But I want to point out, like we talked about, the interesting why that was a sleeper game that we talked about last week was because of Bill Snyder, great coach, and that Wildcat defense. And if you take out those two long touchdown runs from McCaffrey, his yards per carry is only 2.5.
Right.
That defense